Have you ever wondered why some women, without saying a word, command the attention of a room? Why the air seems to bend toward them, the space reshaping itself as they walk by? It's not youth, not superficial beauty, not the loud spectacle of someone desperately seeking validation. No, it is something far more ancient, far more dangerous, and far more irresistible. It is the quiet power of maturity. The kind of maturity forged not in years, but in shadows. The woman shaped by the fires of heartbreak, the silent storms of rejection, the cavernous nights where no one came to rescue her. She has walked through the valley of mirrors, where false love, projection, and ego danced in disguise, and she emerged knowing exactly who she is. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming whole, of integrating the fragmented self into alignment with the deeper unconscious. The irresistible woman lives this truth. She does not perform, she embodies. Her presence unsettles those who cannot meet her in the depths because she is not here to please. She is here to exist fully. You've seen her, haven't you? Perhaps you've been her in fleeting moments, those rare seconds when you remembered your worth, when you were untethered from needing approval, when your energy radiated not because you chased affection, but because you withdrew into the sanctuary of your own knowing. Irresistibility is not a game of seduction tricks or surface tactics. It is an unconscious language written across her posture, her boundaries, the charged stillness in her gaze. And it all begins within, beneath the persona, beyond the layers the world taught her to wear. The mature woman has made peace with her shadow. That disowned, silent side, the envy, the rage, the vulnerability, the deep hunger for connection. She no longer banishes to the corners of her psyche. She brings it forward, looks in the eye, and claims it as part of her whole. Jung taught that what we repress, we project. The immature woman projects her wounds onto lovers, onto strangers, onto herself. The mature woman integrates them, and in doing so becomes magnetic beyond comprehension. She doesn't chase chaos. She commands stillness. The world is loud, desperate voices clamor for attention, social feeds pulse with curated perfection, promises of love echo hollow. But the irresistible woman, she stands apart, woven from silence and fire alike. There's something dangerous about her restraint, her refusal to participate in emotional theatrics, her ability to let others reveal themselves without interrupting. They're unraveling, and yet do not mistake her calm for passivity. Beneath her quiet exterior lives discernment sharp as a blade. She knows the games of manipulation, the subtle tests, the needling questions, the energy vampires disguised as charm. She's danced with them before, but no longer. Her boundaries are not walls of bitterness, but gates of self-respect, opening only for those who carry the same depth, the same scars etched in wisdom. Perhaps you've met her across the room. The woman who doesn't flinch at loneliness, who doesn't twist herself to fit the desires of those around her. Maybe you've caught her reflection in yourself, in the moments when you stopped apologizing for your strength, when you spoke with clarity, when you no longer begged love to stay. Irresistibility is not accidental. It is the alchemy of shadow, pain, and radical self-ownership. The mature woman is irresistible not because she seeks to be, but because she cannot be anything else. The irresistible woman is fluent in the language of detachment, not the cold indifference of the emotionally distant, but the sacred understanding that what is meant for her will not require force, performance, or self-abandonment. She has buried enough pieces of herself in the graves of false promises to know this truth intimately. It is why, when she speaks, the air stills. Her words carry weight not from volume, but from the integrity that backs them. In a world addicted to superficial affirmations, the mature woman understands the rare currency of presence. She listens not to respond, but to truly see the architecture of another's soul. And in doing so, she evokes a mirror. Those in her presence cannot help but feel exposed, invited to meet themselves in their rawest form. Jung spoke of the anima and animus, the unconscious masculine and feminine energies within each being. The mature, irresistible woman has made peace with both. She holds the fierce clarity of the animus, structured boundaries, logic sharpened by experience, the unwavering refusal to compromise her values. And yet, she flows with the anima's depth, intuitive, receptive, an ocean of unspoken emotion that does not seek permission to exist. Her allure is not confined to appearance. Beauty fades, trends dissolve, youth wanes, but the gravitational pull of her spirit only intensifies with time. She moves with grace sharpened by grief, with joy tempered by loss, with softness that survived the brutal hands of betrayal. To stand near her is to feel the weight of someone who has been both shattered and rebuilt by her own hands. Have you noticed how easily the world misunderstands such women? They call her intimidating. They accuse her of being too much, too little, too complicated, too self-contained. But deep down, they recognize the unsettling truth. She is untamed by external validation. And that terrifies those who only know how to connect through control, manipulation, or flattery. You see, the irresistible woman has danced with solitude and found it sweeter than counterfeit intimacy. She no longer negotiates her worth. Her energy is not a resource to be mined by the desperate, nor a stage for the emotionally unavailable to project their fantasies. She holds herself with quiet reverence, choosing who may approach, who may stay, and who must fade to possess such. Gravity is to accept misunderstanding. The immature seek to be understood by all, craving approval like oxygen. But the mature woman? She walks willingly into the wilderness of her own becoming, knowing only a rare few will recognize her frequency, and fewer still will be worthy of access to her inner sanctum. She is irresistible because she is rare, not rare in existence, rare in self-possession, rare in her refusal to fragment herself to soothe the insecurities of others, rare in her patience, her standards, her ability to let go without resentment when love does not meet her depth. And if you, listening now, have glimpsed this woman within yourself, if you have felt the quiet whisper urging you to stop shrinking, to integrate your shadow, to honor the fires you've walked through, understand this: the world may not always welcome your becoming, but your irresistibility does not ask for permission. There is a sacred danger in becoming a woman who knows herself, a danger that unsettles the foundations of shallow connections, that disrupts the dynamics built on dependency and fragile egos. The irresistible woman, the mature woman, has tasted this danger, and she does not apologize for it. It is woven into her stillness, into the pauses between her words, into the spaces she refuses to fill with nervous chatter or empty approval. She has mastered the uncomfortable silences where truth rises. She lets others reveal themselves in those silences, their neediness, their projections, their gains, and she remains unmoved. The immature may interpret this as distance, but it is, in fact, the deepest form of presence, the ability to see without becoming entangled, to observe without sacrificing her center. Jung taught that projection is the source of much human suffering, the distorted images we cast onto others, mistaking fantasy for reality. The mature woman has burned through this illusion. She no longer projects, nor does she absorb the projections of others. When someone demands that she shrink, dim her light, soften her standards to fit their insecurity, she simply does not. There is a brutal grace in this, a refusal to contort herself for comfort. You see, the irresistible woman is not here to be convenient. She is not soft clay in the hands of the unsure. Her boundaries are not negotiable, and that very fact, her unwavering presence within herself, becomes the most magnetic force of all. You may wonder, what makes this magnetism so palpable? It is not performance, nor the chase for attention. It is the quiet rebellion against a world that conditions women to diminish themselves. The irresistible woman has refused that conditioning. She has faced the archetype society projected onto her, the naive maiden, the obedient caregiver, the objectified muse, and dismantled them piece by piece in their place. She wears the archetype of the integrated woman, the sovereign, the queen, the one who rules not over others, but over herself. Her sovereignty is not loud, yet it saturates the room. Men who stand in their ownness recognize her immediately. They approach not with conquest, but with reverence. And those still ruled by their fractured egos, they recoil, uncomfortable in her presence, sensing a power they cannot manipulate. There is also softness in her. The mature woman does not wear armor of bitterness, nor the brittle edges of unprocessed pain. Her softness is earned. It is the softness of someone who knows she can survive heartbreak and still remain open, who understands vulnerability is not weakness, but an offering of truth that only the worthy may receive. And if you, watching now, feel the stirring of this woman within, the quiet knowing that you, too, were never meant to be small, fragmented, or silenced, heed that call. Your irresistibility does not come from how well you mold yourself to the expectations of others, but from how fiercely you reclaim the parts of you the world tried to shame. The mature woman embodies this reclamation. Every boundary, every pause, every refusal to be diminished speaks louder than words. She is not immune to loneliness, nor untouched by longing, but she will never trade her soul for temporary companionship. She knows that in protecting her energy, in honoring her depth, she may stand alone but never lost. She belongs to herself first. And that, above all, is why she cannot be ignored. There is a subtle, devastating elegance in the woman who has made peace with solitude. She is the embodiment of what Jung called the individuate self, a human, no longer fragmented by fear, no, longer shackled by the desperate search for completion in the external world. The irresistible woman has walked through the wastelands of abandonment and emerged whole, stitched together not by false promises, but by her own resolve. Her energy speaks before her words do. There is no frantic need to impress, no restless hunger for validation. She walks into a room as though she belongs to herself, and that more than curated beauty or practiced charm arrests attention. People sense it, even if they cannot name it. A quiet sovereignty, an unshakable knowing woven into her posture, her choices, her silences. She is the product of destruction as much as creation. The immature often believe maturity arrives with age, but true maturity, the kind that renders a woman unforgettable, is carved through trials, betrayals, the smoldering ashes of former versions of herself. Every heartbreak she survived, every illusion she shattered, every night she sat with her own darkness has refined her presence into something rare, something untamed. Have you ever noticed how the world tests such women? How they are challenged, questioned, doubted, not because they lack worth, but because their refusal to abandon themselves unsettles the fragile foundations upon which many relationships are built. The mature woman does not flinch. She expects the tests. She anticipates the projections. And she meets them not with defiance, but with disinterest, because validation from the unwool is not her currency. Jung understood that wholeness is both a psychological and spiritual journey, a descent into shadow, a confrontation with the unknown self. The irresistible woman has dared this descent. She has unearthed the parts of herself the world deemed unacceptable, the hunger for power, the quiet rage, the feral longing for freedom, and she has woven them into her being, not hidden, not denied, integrated. And in that integration, she becomes untouchable in the most profound sense. Not unreachable, but inaccessible to those who cannot meet her in authenticity. Her energy does not beg. It invites. It does not cling. It observes. She does not dilute her brilliance to comfort others' insecurities. She shines unapologetically and lets those who cannot bear the light fade into their own shadows. There is mystery in her, too. The irresistible woman does not reveal herself entirely, not out of manipulation, but out of reverence for her own depths. She understands that unveiling the self is an earned intimacy, a privilege, not a transaction. Those who encounter her are drawn to her complexity, the layered echoes of experience that live behind her eyes, the palpable sense that she has walked roads most fear to tread. It is not a learned performance. It is her nature, sculpted by truth. And it confuses those accustomed to surface-level interactions, to transactional affection, to predictable emotional games. She does not play. She does not entertain the theatrics of insecurity or neediness. She simply exists as herself, and that is more than enough to command attention, to fracture the illusions others carry, to inspire both admiration and unease. She is irresistible precisely because she cannot be owned, tamed, or defined by anyone but herself. And in a world addicted to control, to conformity, to the familiar patterns of dysfunction, her presence is revolutionary. If you, listening now, have glimpsed this revolution within yourself, know this. The journey is not without solitude, nor without challenge. But on the other side of that, aloneness is sovereignty, the kind of sovereignty that transforms not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. There is something hauntingly beautiful about a woman who no longer fears her own depth. She has kissed the edges of despair, wrestled with the voices of inadequacy, and survived the suffocating expectations the world once whispered into her ear. And now, she walks with the quiet gravity of someone who belongs to herself. The irresistible woman radiates from within. It is not performative, not the curated, surface-level confidence taught by glossy magazines or empty empowerment slogans. It is raw, visceral, ancient, the kind of magnetism born from integrating every wound, every disappointment, every shattered illusion into the architecture of her being. She understands the delicate dance of presence and mystery. She offers glimpses of herself, just enough to intrigue, never enough to surrender her entirety to the unworthy. Her energy does not scream for attention. It pulls subtly with the force of unspoken wisdom. Those near her feel it, the quiet storm beneath her stillness, the untamed fire that flickers behind her composed exterior. This is not arrogance. It is self-knowledge. The mature woman has excavated her unconscious terrain, the forgotten dreams, the fragmented pieces of her psyche, and she has stitched them together, one painful revelation at a time. Jung spoke of this process the sacred, brutal path of individuation, and she wears its markings with pride. Her irresistibility is not an accident of genetics, nor a product of flawless circumstance. It is an earned essence. She has stood in the ruins of false love and smiled. She has buried the versions of herself who begged, who chased, who contorted her worth for temporary validation. And in the stillness after the storm, she rebuilt herself not softer, but clearer, not harder, but wiser. Have you seen her? The woman who no longer flinches at being misunderstood. She knows that not everyone can decipher her language, the language of depth, of standards, of unapologetic boundaries. Some will call her difficult, others will label her intimidating. But beneath those accusations lies a simple truth. Cannot control her, and that terrifies them. You may find traces of her within yourself, the moments you refused to accept crumbs when you hungered for wholeness, the times you stood alone rather than shrink to fit someone else's smallness. These are the sparks of your own irresistibility, the seeds of a presence that commands without. Demanding. The mature woman does not seek attention. She embodies alignment. Her words match her energy. Her actions reflect her values. There is no dissonance, no hidden agenda, no fractured self masquerading as confidence. And it is precisely this rare congruence that draws others and men who are whole enough to meet her, women who recognize her reflection, and those still lost in their own illusions, desperate to taste her clarity. Yet she is discerning. Not every hand extended is worthy of holding hers. Not every admirer understands the responsibility of proximity to her soul. She has learned the hard way that some will love her potential, but resent her boundaries, desire her fire, but recoil from her depth. She lets them fall away, Her energy is finite, and she guards it with quiet ferocity. It is not that she refuses to love, it is that she refuses to betray herself in the name of love. She knows the cost of self-abandonment, the ache of empty connections, the exhaustion of being everything to those who offer nothing in return. In her refusal to settle, she becomes rare, and in rarity, she becomes irresistible. There is an undeniable, almost primordial allure to a woman who moves through the world as if she owes it nothing. The irresistible woman is not desperate for belonging, nor is she seduced by shallow promises of attention. She belongs to herself first, and that terrifies those who only know love as a transaction of needs. Her power is quiet, but it is relentless. It hums beneath her skin, woven into the smallest gestures, the way she holds her gaze, the spaces she chooses to inhabit, the silences she allows to stretch without apology. You see, the irresistible woman is a master of restraint. She does not reveal her soul to those who haven't earned the privilege of her vulnerability. Jung taught that within every woman resides the hidden masculine, the animus, the internal, architect of strength, clarity, and reason. The mature, irresistible woman has forged a relationship with her animus. She no longer externalizes her need for protection, for direction, for validation. She carries those elements within, and that makes her dangerous to systems built on female dependence. She is not hard, yet she is unyielding. Her softness is intentional, never an invitation for exploitation. Those who confuse her tenderness with weakness quickly discover the steel beneath her warmth. Her boundaries are not mere words, they are embodied, unapologetic truths. She will walk away from anything that fractures her peace, no matter how enticing the illusion. Have you ever stood in your own reflection and seen glimpses of her? The woman who no longer fears solitude, who understands that aloneness is not emptiness, but a sanctuary, a space where clarity sharpens and falsehoods fall away. The irresistible woman has made love to her solitude, and in doing so, has stripped herself of the desperation that plagues the insecure. Her relationships are not arenas for ego gains or unhealed projections. She does not entertain those who mistake her patience for passivity or her kindness for submission. She holds space for others, yes, but only those capable of holding space for her in return. And this unwavering standard is what elevates her presence beyond comprehension. Many will misunderstand her. They will label her as cold, distant, unattainable. But beneath those misconceptions is fear of a woman untethered to societal expectations. A woman who no longer plays the role of savior, mother, or muse to fragile egos. She is not here to complete others. She is complete within herself. In her completeness, she becomes a mirror reflecting back to others their own gaps, their own unhealed fractures, their own unintegrated shadows. Those willing to face themselves are drawn to her with reverence. Those unwilling recoil, shrouded in their own discomfort. You must understand, her irresistibility is not universal, it is selective. It speaks only to those with eyes to see beyond. Illusion, with hearts courageous enough to meet her depth without fear of drowning. She is not here for mass approval. She is here for truth, in a world intoxicated by performance and perfection. Her authenticity slices through the noise like a blade. She does not chase affection, nor does she barter with her worth. Her mere existence disrupts, challenges, and awakens, and that is what renders her unforgettable. She is a storm cloaked in stillness, a wildfire contained within composure. And for those who cannot match her frequency, her presence feels like distance. But for those who recognize the language of wholeness, she is gravity incarnate. There is a moment in every woman's life when she must decide, shrink to fit the expectations of others, or rise into the vast, untamed expanse of her true self. The irresistible woman, the mature woman, has already made her choice. She has burned the map that led her to smallness. She walks now with the authority of someone who has been dismantled by life and rebuilt by her own hands. She no longer negotiates her presence. Her energy is not currency to be traded for scraps of attention. It is a sovereign force, cultivated through years of shadow work, solitude, and the brutal honesty required to see herself completely light and dark, strength and softness, brilliance, and flaws interwoven into one unapologetic whole. Carl Jung taught that wholeness demands we confront the unconscious, the hidden fractures buried beneath our personas. The irresistible woman has done this sacred excavation. She has faced the abandoned parts of herself, the inner child yearning for acceptance, the unhealed wounds of betrayal, the quiet ache for connection, and she has brought them home in. Doing so, she radiates an energy that defies explanation. She does not have to speak of her worth. It drips from her every movement, every boundary, every silence. She does not chase validation, because she has reclaimed the authority of her own gaze. She sees herself deeply, and that vision liberates her from the exhausting theater of external approval. Have you felt the stirrings of this in yourself? Those moments when you refuse to apologize for your standards? When you choose peace over performance, solitude over shallow company? That is the awakening of your own irresistibility, the reclamation of your fragmented power, stitched back. Together with the threads of radical self-ownership, the irresistible woman carries an unsettling calm. She does not perform chaos to be noticed, nor does she contort herself to soothe fragile egos. Her presence is a sanctuary for the worthy and a mirror for the unworthy. Those unwilling to meet themselves cannot meet her, for she reflects back the hidden truths most fear to confront. She understands the intoxicating trap of potential, the allure of those who promise change, who dangle fragments of love yet remain tethered to their own dysfunction. She no longer invests in potential. She invests in reality, in action, in consistency. And that standard filters out the performative. From the profound dot there is wisdom in her solitude. The world shouts that a woman alone is incomplete, that her worth is measured by partnership, by approval, by her ability to be chosen. But the irresistible woman laughs at this lie. She chooses herself again and again, and that choice emanates as an undeniable force. Men who are whole recognize it. They do not seek to possess her, but to witness her, to meet her in the depths without diminishing her fire. Those who are fractured recoil, mistaking her sovereignty for arrogance, her standards for walls. But she no longer shrinks to soothe. The insecurities of others dot her irresistibility is not a trick, not a performance, not a fleeting veneer. It is carved from the marrow of her experiences, forged in the crucible of heartbreak and rebirth, refined through relentless self-awareness. It is the consequence of becoming unapologetically whole. And when you too remember that you are not here to beg, to chase, to be chosen, but to choose, you will find that same fire burning quietly within you. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.